5 years after divorcing Sam, I ran into him again, at a baby store. Lily was heavily pregnant and Sam was carefully supporting her as they walked. I let out a sigh, picked up the cashmere romper in my hands and headed toward the checkout counter. Well, isn't this Diana? Can't even give birth to a child yourself, yet you love hanging around baby stores so much. I didn't turn around and kept walking toward the cashier, but Lily refused to let it go. She tugged Sam along and hurried over in front of me. Honey, look, your ex-wife is so desperate for a baby she's practically lost her mind. Why don't you just pay for it for her? Under the gaze of the clerk, Sam looked embarrassed, but he still pulled out his bank card. No need. I have my own money. Being rejected made Sam furious and humiliated. He suddenly grabbed my shopping bag. And where do you think that money came from? From taking my assets in the divorce. What are you so smug about? Chapter 1. Lily looked like a proud peacock. She clung affectionately to Sam's arm, chin lifted high. She sized me up from head to toe, her gaze deliberately lingering on my flat stomach for a few seconds, the smug curve of her lips stretching almost to her ears. She shook Sam's arm, her voice so saccharine it could drip water. Honey, look, Diana likes this outfit so much, her eyes are practically glued to it. How about, you buy it for her? It could fulfill her dream of becoming a mother. Look at her, she's kind of pitiful. I looked at her. At that carefully made-up face, now completely different from the plain look she had back when she was just an assistant. Sam still looked impeccably polished. Dressed in a custom-made suit, the Patek Philippe watch I'd given him still on his wrist, his hair meticulously styled. Every inch of him screamed successful man. Yet the moment his eyes met mine, a flicker of awkwardness still crossed his otherwise expressionless face. I couldn't be bothered to waste words on them. As I turned to leave, I could still hear Lily behind me endlessly complaining to Sam about something. But Sam was just staring straight at me. The car drove smoothly along the overpass. Watching the familiar scenery flow past outside the window, I suddenly thought of how Sam and I were right after graduation. Back then, we were squeezed into a rented room in an urban village, less than 15 square meters. There was no air conditioning in summer, so we'd go to the supermarket just to enjoy the cold air. We were so poor back then. So poor that sharing a single 5 yuan cup of instant noodles between the two of us felt like the finest delicacy in the world. He would put the only poached egg into my bowl, and I would quietly push the few slices of sausage I had back into his bowl. Later, he said he wanted to start a business, that he wanted to give me the best life. I believed him. I gave him every bit of the inheritance my parents had left me. That was our only startup capital. The company was called SD Technology. It was made up of the initials of our names. Those years of starting the business were the hardest years of my life. And also the happiest days I ever had. ## Chapter 2. I stayed up with him through countless sleepless nights, revising proposals in front of the computer until my eyes were red and swollen. I sat beside him at drinking tables, locking glass after glass of strong liquor for him, drinking until my stomach bled and I was rushed to the hospital. I waited with him just for a contract worth a few $100,000, standing outside the client's office building for an entire day. Back then, we had nothing. And yet, it felt as if we owned the whole world. SD Technology succeeded. From that tiny rented room, barely over 10 square meters, we moved into the most prestigious office building in the city center. The company grew bigger and bigger, like a snowball rolling downhill. Sam became what people called a young and promising boss. And I chose to step back. I believed that behind a successful man there needed to be a woman who could take care of everything for him. So I put away all my sharp edges and ambitions, and willingly became the shadow behind him. I always matched his ties. His stomach was always nourished with the soup I simmered for him. Every time he came home late, there was always a light left on for him. Later on, his social engagements became more and more frequent. My body, worn down by years of hardship, could no longer keep up with the fast pace. So I personally interviewed and hired a personal assistant. A girl who looked gentle, didn't talk much, but was meticulous in her work. Her name was Lily. I carefully told her all of Sam's preferences and dietary restrictions. I asked her to prepare different soups every day and deliver his meals. I asked her to bring him stomach medicine immediately whenever drinking upset his stomach. I asked her to remind him to put on an extra layer when he worked late. I was like an idiot. With my own hands, I slowly placed another woman into Sam's life. I told her to take good care of Sam's daily needs. But I never expected that she would expand the scope of care from his stomach to his bed. Sam and I got married right after graduation. But our wedding wasn't held until after the company went public. Life after marriage was comfortable, yet it gradually lost its original flavor. The biggest issue was children. After many years of marriage, my belly showed no signs at all. Sam's mother was an elderly woman from the countryside, poorly educated, and she cared deeply about this. At first, she only hinted at it indirectly. She would sigh meaningfully during meals. The wife next door just gave birth to another big baby boy. I wonder when I'll finally get to hold a grandchild. Later, when I showed no reaction, her words became sharp and cruel. Diana, is there something wrong with your body? You should really go to the hospital and get checked. She even mocked me openly in front of all the relatives, saying their family must have been cursed for 8 lifetimes to marry a woman who was good at spending money but can't lay eggs. At the beginning, Sam still defended me. He would pull his mother aside and tell her not to say such hurtful things. He would hold me and comfort me, saying we should let nature take its course when it came to children. But gradually, as his mother's tantrums grew worse and as Lily spent more and more time by his side, his attitude changed. He became silent. And once, when his mother pointed at my nose again and cursed me as a childless woman with no descendants, he only frowned, pulled me back into the room, then sighed and said to me, "How about, we go to a temple and pray to the Bodhisattva?" Chapter 3. At that moment, as I looked at him, for the first time, I felt as though a crack had appeared somewhere deep inside my heart. Around that time, several long-time employees at the company who were close to me had hinted to me more than once. "Diana, you really should come back and check in more often. That new assistant, Lily, she's not simple. The way she looks at the boss, it's exactly like how you used to look at him back then." I didn't take it seriously. I thought they were overthinking it. I even treated it as a joke and told Sam about it. "Hey, don't you think they've watched too many palace drama shows? I see her every day. Why haven't I noticed anything special? She's just a young girl. What kind of bad intentions could she have?" At the time, Sam was reading documents. When he heard that, he didn't even look up, only replied calmly with a soft "You taught her well. That Lily girl really is quite good. She has some of your old style, efficient, perceptive. For some occasions later on, I want to take her along more, let her gain some exposure. That way she can help you shoulder more of the workload in the future." I believed him. Because of those words, I even felt a bit more genuine appreciation and sympathy toward Lily. I knew her background. Her parents had died in an accident, and she came alone from a small town to fight her way into the big city. Too similar. She was practically another version of me. So I taught her almost everything I had. I passed on, without holding anything back, all the experience I had gained over the years of struggling in the business world. How to read contracts, how to negotiate, how to survive at drinking tables, protecting yourself while still closing the deal. Lily was indeed smart and picked things up quickly. Before long, in one of the company's most important projects, she played a crucial role and successfully secured a deal worth hundreds of millions. The company held a grand celebration banquet. But halfway through the event, I realized that Lily and Sam were both gone. My heart suddenly skipped for no reason. I searched the entire banquet hall but couldn't find them anywhere. In the end, driven by some strange impulse, I walked to the door of Sam's office. The door was slightly ajar. From inside came the sound of the two of them talking. "So how did you get the other side to give in on that final supplementary agreement?" It was Sam's voice, carrying a hint of admiration. I just did what Diana taught me, first flattering them, then finding the most insignificant loophole in their contract and scaring them a little." Lily's voice sounded somewhat muffled, as if she had something in her mouth, yet her words were filled with barely concealed pride. "Well done," Sam said sincerely. "You really do have some of Diana's style from back then. It's all because Diana taught me well." Lily immediately and modestly pushed the credit onto me. Without Diana, there wouldn't be a me today. Listening to them talk about me inside, I couldn't help but smile and reached out to gently push open the half-closed door. What are you chatting about that's so lively? But the very next second, the smile on my face froze completely. Hashtag chapter 4. Inside the office, Sam was leaning back in his large executive chair. And Lily was curled up entirely under his desk. When she heard my voice, she jolted like a startled rabbit and slammed into the desk. She stumbled and scrambled beneath it while Sam jumped to his feet in a panic. In that instant, my stomach churned violently with nausea. What are you doing? A flash of panic crossed Sam's face, but he quickly regained his composure. He frowned. Diana, why did you come in without knocking? Lily had already recovered as well. She immediately burst into tears. Diana, please, don't misunderstand. I accidentally dropped my earring under the desk. Sam was just helping me look for it. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I rushed forward, about to slap that disgusting woman. But before my hand could reach her face, smack. A sharp, resounding slap landed brutally across my face. It was Sam. He actually hit me to protect her. At the office doorway, colleagues who had rushed over after hearing the noise all sucked in a sharp breath. Sam looked at me with not a trace of guilt in his eyes, only impatient anger. Diana, have you caused enough trouble already? Have you been stuck at home for too long, imagining things? Lily is a trainee you and I trained together. How could you doubt her like this? That slap was loud and crisp. It didn't just stun me. It stunned everyone standing at the office door. The entire world seemed to have been muted. I didn't say a word. I just looked at him. At the man I had loved for 8 years, the man I had accompanied from absolute nothing to immense wealth. And he had slapped me in front of the entire company, for another woman. I turned around and, under the complicated gazes of everyone, slowly walked out of that office that made me feel sick and suffocated. Not long after I got home, Sam rushed back as well. The moment he walked in, he tried to hug me. Diana, I'm sorry. Just now. I really acted on impulse. I had a bit to drink. I didn't mean it. Expressionless, I avoided the hand he reached out. Why? Sam's eyes began to dodge. He didn't dare look me in the eye. I wasn't protecting her. Diana, Lily, she's really not what you think. She's just a girl who just graduated, very timid. The way you were back then would have scared her. Sam, I cut him off. Even now, you're still saying this kind of bullshit. Seeing that I was truly angry, he became anxious too. He stepped forward, grabbed my shoulders, trying to make me believe his so-called difficult position. Diana, listen to me. This is a critical period for the company's development. As the face of the company, I can't afford any negative publicity. Think about it. If today's incident got blown up, how would people see me? See our company? All these years of hard work. I looked at him. At that face full of sincerity and helplessness. Suddenly, I felt exhausted. Disgusted. It didn't take long for me to learn the truth, why he had been so out of control that day, so desperate to protect Lily. It wasn't for any damn company future. It was because Lily was already pregnant. That day, I was in the kitchen making dessert when the doorbell suddenly rang. Lily stood there, crying her eyes out, clutching a crumpled ultrasound report. And Sam stood behind her, his expression complicated, completely at a loss. That night, he asked me for a divorce. He didn't dare look me in the eye. He just lowered his head. Diana, I'm sorry. My mom, she's getting old. She's always wanted to hold a grandson. Our family can't end without an heir. I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I only calmly asked him one last question. Sam, are you sure that child is yours? Hashtag chapter 5. He suddenly lifted his head and looked at me as if I were being unreasonable. Diana, how can you say something like that? Lily, she's not that kind of woman. At a time like this, are you really going to keep making trouble for no reason? I smiled and said nothing more. I took out the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago. I only asked for half of the shares of SD Technology. That was what I deserved. Before moving out, I took out the report that had been locked away in the safe all this time. The examination results on it clearly showed that Sam had no reproductive ability. I stared at that piece of paper for a long time. In the end, I still tore it into tiny pieces, threw them into the toilet, and flushed everything away. My thoughts were pulled back by a soft melody. I was home. The nanny was waiting at the door, holding my baby daughter Sophia, who had just woken up. When the little one saw me, she immediately stretched out her chubby little hands, babbling and asking to be held. I took her into my arms and planted a firm kiss on her soft, pudgy little cheeks. In that instant, all those unpleasant memories from just moments ago vanished without a trace. After that unexpected encounter, I thought that was the end of it. But a few days later, Sophia developed some small red spots from rosella infantum. Although the doctor said it was nothing serious, I still couldn't feel at ease, so my husband and I took her to the hospital for a follow-up. After leaving the doctor's office to pick up the test results, in that corridor packed with parents and children, I ran into the two people I least wanted to see again, Sam and Lily. Lily's postpartum recovery didn't seem to be going very well. She looked swollen and worn out. In her arms was a sickly-looking baby boy, while Sam followed beside her, holding a large mommy bag, his expression anxious. Lily saw me too. She froze for a moment, then that familiar sharp smile appeared on her face again. "Oh, Diana." She deliberately raised her voice, drawing the attention of everyone around us. "What is this, gone crazy from wanting a child? You even chased all the way to the pediatrics department." She covered her mouth and looked at me with feigned shock. You wouldn't be losing your mind, would you? Planning to steal a child from here?" Before I could even speak, Sam interrupted her. "Lily, stop talking nonsense." He frowned and scolded her. Then his gaze fell on me, his expression complicated. What's wrong with your health? Why are you at the hospital?" He was probably still assuming that I couldn't have children. I couldn't be bothered to explain anything to him. I simply turned around, ready to leave this troublesome place. But at the very moment I turned, a child who had just learned to walk ran straight into my leg with a soft thud. The impact made me stagger. The report sheets in my hand scattered across the floor like snowflakes. Sam, who was closest to me, almost instinctively bent down to help me pick them up. He moved quickly and grabbed the top sheet first. It was Sophia's test report, freshly printed just moments ago. He saw my name clearly written in the column labeled Mother. And he also saw, at the bottom of the report, the doctor's bold sweeping diagnosis. Rosella infantum, recovered. Postpartum 1-year follow-up. All indicators normal. His hand froze instantly. ## chapter 6. He stood there as if frozen by a spell, completely stunned. "Honey, what's wrong?" Lily, holding the baby and seeing that he hadn't moved for a long time, walked over impatiently. She saw the report as well. Her pupils shrank sharply. "Oh my God, honey." Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, she suddenly screamed. The baby seems to have a fever again. We need to find a doctor, now." Without giving him a chance to respond, she grabbed Sam, who was still in a daze, and almost dragged him away in a panicked fleeing posture. There was no trace left of her earlier arrogance and smugness. Only undisguised terror remained in her eyes. I couldn't be bothered with the undercurrents between them. Holding the report, I returned to the VIP ward. I pushed the door open. A gentle, smiling voice came from inside. "Sweetheart, look, Mommy's back. We can go now." Diego was sitting on the sofa, teasing the little boy who looked exactly like my daughter Sophia, Lucas. "Yes, a year ago, I gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl." When Sophia saw me, she immediately wriggled free from Diego's arms, ran over and hugged my leg, calling out in a soft babyish voice, "Mommy, hug." Smiling, I picked her up and Diego walked over as well. "What did the doctor say?" "It's nothing, just a normal case of rosella." But just as we finished packing up and were about to leave the hospital, I happened to see Sam standing at the hospital entrance. His gaze was fixed, glued to Sophia in my arms. He stared in disbelief at that little face almost carved from the same mold as mine. His lips trembled as if he wanted to say something. Lily was standing behind him too. When she saw our family of 4, the expression on her face became even more dramatic. Jealousy and guilt intertwined on her swollen face, forming a ridiculous picture. She probably feared Sam might say something he shouldn't, so she spoke first. The familiar sarcasm was still there, but her confidence was clearly gone. "Diana, you're really in the mood, aren't you?" Can't give birth yourself yet you're this devoted to someone else's children. Before I could say anything, Diego, who had been standing beside me the whole time, stepped forward and shielded me behind him. Normally, he was gentle and refined, treating everyone with courteous warmth. But at this moment, the way he looked at Lily was icy cold. "Ma'am," his voice wasn't loud, "you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say just anything. My wife is not someone an outsider gets to gossip about." Lily was left speechless by his retort, her face instantly turning a deep purplish red. Sam subconsciously pulled Lily behind him, adopting a protective stance. I watched the scene. Watched him stand in front of another woman, shielding her. And suddenly, an indescribable bitterness welled up in my chest. I thought of a very, very long time ago. Back when SD technology was still an unknown little workshop. Because we had touched someone else's interests, we were cornered in the company warehouse by a group of thugs. Sam himself had already been beaten badly, yet he still spread his arms wide like an eagle protecting its young, firmly shielding me behind him. Fists and clubs rained down on him. He was beaten until his head was split open, 2 of his ribs broken, yet he still protected me without making a sound. It was also because he had once placed me first like that without hesitation. That when I learned the truth, that he couldn't have children, I still instinctively chose to keep it hidden for him. I wanted to protect him. To protect that pitiful and laughable thing, his pride as a man. ## Chapter 7. Honey, let's go. I pulled myself out of my memories. I stopped Diego, who was about to argue further with Lily, and left with Sophia in my arms. Sam remained standing there, stunned and hollow. "Honey, we should go too. The doctor said the baby needs proper rest." Lily tugged nervously at his sleeve. Sam didn't move. He slowly turned his head and looked at her with a cold gaze she had never seen before. "That report," his voice was hoarse as if scraped by sandpaper, "you saw it too, didn't you?" Lily's body stiffened violently. But she quickly recovered. Forcing a smile uglier than crying, she said. "What report? Honey, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Could it be that your ex-wife deliberately took a fake report to stir trouble between us? Think about it. She can't have children herself. Of course she can't stand seeing us happy." "Enough." Sam cut her off. He didn't press her any further. After returning from the hospital that day, Sam took advantage of a moment when Lily wasn't paying attention and secretly plucked a few soft strands of newborn hair from the baby. He carefully wrapped the hairs in a tissue, then drove alone to the most authoritative forensic identification center in the city. The days waiting for the results were torture beyond anything he had ever experienced. He began suffering from sleepless nights again. The moment he closed his eyes, his mind filled with scenes from the past that he had deliberately ignored. He remembered what Lily was like when she first appeared. Young, gentle, quiet. The way she looked at him always carried just the right amount of admiration. Too similar, painfully similar to how I had looked at him when we first got together. He admitted that he had been drawn to that long-lost sense of youth. But he swore he had never intended to betray me. Until that night. He drank heavily with clients over a major deal. Drank until he blacked out. When he woke up the next morning in a hotel bed, what he saw was Lily, disheveled, clutching the blanket, sitting in the corner of the bed and crying silently. At that moment, his mind exploded. He believed that he had lost control while drunk and committed an unforgivable mistake. From that day on, he began deliberately distancing himself from me. Not because he stopped loving me. Perhaps because he couldn't face the filthy version of himself. He despised himself in guilt yet couldn't stop growing closer and closer to Lily. So when Lily later appeared before him holding that pregnancy report, he actually felt a strange sense of relief. He truly wanted a child. He wanted to use a child to make up for what he owed his parents. And he also wanted to use this so-called responsibility to lessen the crushing guilt weighing on his heart. So he chose the simplest, and cruelest, path. He chose to divorce me. The day the test results came out, it was raining heavily. Sam sat alone in his car, staring at those few thin pages of paper. Excluded biological relationship. Those cold words stabbed straight into his eyes. So it had all been fake. His son was fake. Lily's victimhood was fake. And the responsibility he thought he was taking was nothing more than a carefully woven ridiculous scam. And he was the fool who had been played mercilessly. He drove back to the place he once believed was home. He didn't explode. He didn't lose control. He simply placed the paternity test report calmly in front of Lily. Then he said just one word to her. Get out. ## Chapter 8. After that, Sam began searching for me obsessively. Somehow, he found out my address. So he lingered downstairs at my building day and night, like a restless ghost. The moment my car drove into the underground garage, he rushed out from the shadows and blocked my car without a second thought. Before I could even react, he dropped to his knees with a heavy thud right into the puddles on the ground. Gone was the polished man he once was. Disheveled and miserable, he looked at me with bloodshot eyes, raised his hand and slapped himself again and again, hard. Smack. 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 The sound echoed sharply through the empty garage. Diana, I was wrong. I was wrong. I was blind. I'm a bastard. I'm the one who wronged you. Give me one more chance, just one last time, please. I looked at him. But inside me, not a single ripple remained. Sam, the Diana who loved you deeply, who was willing to endure every injustice for you. She was killed by you with your own hands 5 years ago. Not long after that, news of Sam's divorce and his infidelity during the marriage somehow leaked to the media. Public opinion exploded overnight. The stock price of SD technology plummeted accordingly. Nearly 1 billion vanished in a single night. After being driven away, Lily didn't have an easy life. She must have been truly desperate. Holding that child, she went looking for the child's biological father. That man was another wealthy benefactor she had latched onto, richer than Sam and far more ruthless. The outcome was predictable. Not only did she fail to get a single cent, she was publicly humiliated by the man's legal wife, who brought people along to shame her in public. The scandal spread everywhere. Within that social circle, she became a complete joke. In the end, she had no choice but to crawl back to Sam. Holding the child, she knelt outside the SD Technology building, crying herself hoarse, trying to win Sam back. But this time, Sam didn't even show his face. He simply had security chase her away with insults. After that, news of Sam seemed to disappear entirely from the circle. And SD Technology, which once carried all our blood and sweat, quickly faded from its former glory into complete obscurity. 1 year later, I held a grand birthday party for Sophia and Lucas. Diego held Lucas. I held Sophia as we received blessings from friends and family. My gaze casually swept across a corner of the banquet hall. And then I saw someone who shouldn't have been there. It was Sam. I had no idea how he managed to get in. He was wearing an old suit, washed until it had faded white. His entire body radiated destitution and decline. He stood far away in the shadows, watching us like a lost soul. Sophia, following my line of sight, saw him too. Mommy, that weird uncle is here again. I withdrew my gaze and gently turned, blocking Sophia's view. Machem, we won't pay attention to him. Let's go far away. Diego walked over and gently wrapped an arm around my waist. I smiled at him. It felt as if my truly happy life had only just begun.